clever enough to make the Isle of Man a fortune. At the end of the last century, 900 passengers a day took a ride up Snae Fell. Although the Central Rail was never used for traction on the ascent, it was certainly needed for the way down. The Snae Fell brakesman can still rely on elbow grease to stop a runaway. Isolation has helped the Isle of Man stay locked in its time capsule. But on the mainland, as trams met the demands of the 20th century, they had to modernise. Or face the power going off for good. Tram technology reached its peak. Blackpool launched futuristic streamliners to an adoring public. They look modern now, but in 1933 it was like having Flash Gordon rocket ships running the promenade. People wanted comfort and style like they had on luxury coaches. The transport manager who gave it to them was tram legend Walter Luff.
He was really a good man for change, was Luff. It was his idea to get some streamlined ones. The balloon came on, the boat and the rail coach, all through Mr. Luff doing. Well, they were fantastic to what we'd had. I think Blackpool led the way.
Bulbous in design, the double-decker was nicknamed the Balloon. With compressed air brakes and central doors, it became an instant hit.
You would go down to the tram and get on board, and the first thing you would do would turn the seats over in the direction you were going to go. Then you would go down to the end where the compressor switch was on, turn it on so that your tanks would be filling with air. Get hold of your handle for the Westonhouse brake and the handle that locks the motor. Then, once your conductor was with you, you were ready to go.
On Blackpool's beaches, sand meant fun and games, but tram sand was a matter of life or death.
Well, sand was a very important thing to a tram driver. It was the difference between being able to stop and not being able to stop. We used to get what they call a greasy rail, and this was caused by sea spray more often than not, or rainwater, or a mixture of both. And it caused the tram, when the brake was applied, to slide along like a sled. And the only counteract for that was sand in the sand boxes, and you used to stamp on the sand pedal to send spurts of sand down onto the rail, which would counteract this forward slide.
Sand is pumped onto the rails from pipes in front of the wheels. Checking these were unblocked was an important part of Johnny's daily routine. Dry sand is essential for safe emergency braking, but not all tram drivers were as scrupulous with their sandboxes as Johnny.
Well, there were tales of people using them for urinals, but it's terrible to think of because there's ample toilets along the promenade that can be used, and all you had to do was simply tell the timekeeper at these strategic points, like there'd be Talbot Square, Pleasure Beach, Bispam. You only had to tell the timekeeper where you were going, and as long as he knew, you went and came back and you were back on the job again.
Training tram drivers was never done by the book. In Harry Lycover's case, it was done by the custard tart.
Now, my first man that I did my probation with was Reg Crawford, Barmy Reg. He says, I'm taking you out first on a rail coach. Now, out of this little bag, he brings two beautiful custards. He says, I'm going to carefully place those two custards on the controls. He says, and the Lord help you if you either break these custards or if you drop a custard, because if you do, you'll have them right on your kisser. And believe me, he put the wind up me. So all the way I was on 1 notch, 2 notch, 3 notches. He installed into me the secret, did Reg, of building up on your controls.
From the moment the new balloons took over in the 1930s, driving the huge beasts down the busy promenade was a safety officer's nightmare. Blackpool decorated its brave drivers, but even seasoned campaigners like Johnny Jump don't have a full set of medals.
That's for the 5 years, and that's 10 years. And you know, you went on year after year, but if you had a bump, you went to go back to 1. And that was my misfortune. I'd build my record up to about 3, and then I'd have a scrape, and I'd be back to 1. I remember one of my accidents, I bumped the chief constable. Car, I mean. Although I tried to pull up, I dropped sand and everything, I couldn't avoid it. 1.
Despite the odd angry bobby, Blackpool's modern trams were thriving. Further south, the streets were still crammed with bone shakers. During the 1930s, Manchester carried over 300 million passengers a year. When war broke out, the city found itself with nearly 1,000 ageing trams and few staff. Hilda, Ethel and Dot were employed as conductresses.
As war was declared on the Sunday, about 4 of us went through the job centre. Some of them said, what about joining the army? I said, no, I'd rather go on the tram if it's possible. And we were taken on right away. We were females, weren't we? The skirts we ironed, you know, we pressed them so that we boxed them on. And of course we put extra buttons on the cuffs and things like that.
They provided trousers for us, you know, but half of them didn't wear trousers. We like to wear skirts and show our legs.
No. Top guards or nothing.
But we were supposed to wear a hat. I think we only had one hat between us. And we was always in the ticket office being told off for not wearing your hats. As they come out being told off, pass the hat to the other one before we went in. We was always doing that.
For the new clippy conscripts, working on the trams took them out of cosy front rooms and gave them a glimpse of Manchester's industrial heartland.
The first time I went out, went to Trafford Park. I thought, you know, I imagined it being green grass, etc., you know. And of course, I mean, you know what Trafford Park was like. It was the biggest industrial conurbation in Europe. The hooter would go, and they were like ants, they just appeared. Thousands and thousands of people out of those places, and in that much time you were full and they were on your way.
In 1945, the conductors came back for their jobs.
I was very upset, you know, and I said, I don't feel like packing it in, you know, the men have got to come back, they want the jobs back. And I had to find another job, and I had to go working inside. I worked in Kendall's in town after that, and it was terrible. After working outside for 7 years and then having to go inside working, it was absolutely murder.
The men didn't have long back on the rails. Post-war Britain saw trams as a menace to road transport, and modern councils didn't want the expense of maintaining track and overhead wires. Buses offered a more flexible alternative.